Welcome back to the program Power to Unite with Elvira. Andito po tayo sa Cebu City kung saan po magkakaroon tayo ng panibagong interview. Hulaan po ninyo kung sino dahil po ito ay isang napakagandang ma-interview natin. Walang iba kundi si His Excellency, Most Reverend Osvaldo Padilla. Siya po ay Nuncio po sa 5 bansa. Ang pinakahuli po ay walang iba kundi Korea. Anong kayang pag-uusapan namin at bakit po tayo masaya? Kasi po matagal na namin siya hinahangad na makausap at ngayon pinabigyan niya tayo. Kaya subaybayan ninyo ano ang pag-usapan namin because it will be very interesting to all of you sa pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Your Excellency, nako, I'm so happy to meet you by accident. Kasi matagal ko na po pangarap na sabi ko. You remember when I was in Korea 2 years ago, sabi ko, yung story ninyo, yung mga experience nyo sa mga bansa na kung saan po kayo na-assign, napaka-interesting. But you told me hindi pa panahon. So when we saw each other a few minutes ago, maybe this morning, sabi ko, wow, this is my chance really
Thank you.
to be, to interview you kasi I'm sure the listener, the televiewers will really learn a lot, no? And you can inspire them also to join the Holy See, di ba? Kasi ang kailangan din natin ng mga pare, ng mga nuncio, future nuncio, no? Ngayon, Your Excellency, bago po natin pag-usapan yung bakit ka naging nuncio, I would like to know yung background niyo po na bakit gusto niyo naging pare? At bakit naging nuncio kayo? All the things I say, you can become a doctor, you can become engineer. Di ba? Sino ang nag-inspire sa inyo sa priesthood?
You know, when I joined the seminary, it just came spontaneously.
Talaga.
And later on, when I was looking at vocation, I found that to your question, I can only give half an answer. The human answer,
Okay.
because there is the divine answer. The vocation actually, which is very true, starts in the family.
Okay.
The piety in the family is the one that makes me feel that we have to serve God in some way or another. Since I was small, we were praying the rosary every night.
Okay.
My mother had 2 elder brothers who were priests.
Okay.
And they were exemplary priests. And I said, I want to be like them. A very young age, 11 years old, I told my father, I want to be a priest. And it is interesting because the Augustinian fathers also asked me if I would like to become an Augustinian priest. I told my mother, I want to be an Augustinian priest. And my mother said, if you become Augustinian, they will send you out to the Philippines for novitiate and training, and you will never come back to the Philippines.
Okay.
So I decided to become a diocesan priest. My uncle was very happy. And then I entered the minor seminary. After minor seminary, Archbishop Rosales, Cardinal Rosales, sent me to Manila, and then sent me out of the Philippines.
You avoided to be in the...
I chose to be in the Philippines, but they said you have to go and study. And when I came back, I was asked to go back and work out of the Philippines. So I cannot give a full answer on why.
Okay.
But I think I look at it all with the eyes of God's providence. And I always think that God has His plans. My mother always says, we make the plans, but God decides the plans.
Totoo po yun.
Yeah.
So in your family, so you mentioned that the reason why you are now become a priest, it's because of divine providence and because of the piety of your family, especially with your mother. But is your mother just a plain housewife? And how about your father?
Yeah, the whole family was my grandmother was Catholic. Was
Okay.
very practicing Catholic. And what impressed me when I was young was my grandmother woke up every night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was her prayer for priests. And then my mother took it up, but I did not understand at that time. Sometimes we were even laughing because it was a very what we call ritual prayer, but
Okay.
it was sincere. And this is how vocation is really very important in family life.
Yes, ito
So
po.
vocation starts, the seed of priesthood starts
In
in
the family.
in the family, unless of course God plants it somewhere. My father is the same. My father was always joined us with our prayers, and he always left us to our decisions. You know, we are 13 in the family,
Wow.
and we have doctors. And I have another brother who is also Apostolic Nuncio now in Kuwait.
Okay.
And
Ay,
it was
Kuwait.
also he who made that decision. And sometimes said, well, why don't you take another vocation? Said, no, I want to be a priest like my elder brother. So the whole thing is God's way of choosing. He uses human contacts to really make us follow him.
Is your father a teacher or
My
a
father was a
doctor?
doctor.
Ah, okay.
My mother was a pharmacist, but she retired after the 5th child because she had to take care of all of us.
Oh, nga, with 13 children.
13 children.
No? Now I understand why, you were allowed to choose what you like. Kasi with 13 children, so somebody already, two of your brother or sister follow the footstep, di ba? So, hindi naman nasasaktan daddy mo. Kasi I was about to ask you, hindi ba siya nag-react? Bakit walang ayaw mag-pharmacist, walang ayaw mag-doctor? Pero since meron naman, so you were given the chance to choose
Given the chance, but they also had what we call, they knew that at that time, life as a priest was not easy.
Yes.
In the 50s, it was not easy from the material point of view. It was not easy from the spiritual point of view. Because my father, during the war, adopted 4 or 5 seminarians because the seminary was closed.
Okay.
And so they stayed with us when we were in the mountains hiding from the Japanese. And so he knew that most of these priests had also difficulties. So he knew that life as a priest is not easy. In fact, he was always thinking, think twice before you become a priest. Because materially, it is not an easy vocation. I don't now it's still the same, and spiritually, it is difficult because we cannot control you anymore.
Okay. So what is your answer to that? You accept the challenge?
My answer was, I just want to become a priest. 11 years old, and I remember
Very firm, huh?
he called me to his office, and he said, now we make the decision because tomorrow, I will send you to the seminary if you say yes. And I remember that everybody knew. I cried. I said, please let me go. And he was happy that I made that decision.
Talagang determined ka na talaga, no?
Well, that is why even my sisters, my brothers now ask, at 11 years old, you were determined?
Oo nga.
Well, I couldn't say determined, but I said, well, I will go because that was the only thing I knew. I want to go from the beginning.
Is there any moment during your 11 years of life na something struck you or let's say kahit sa panaginip na makes you na this is
nothing.
No? Okay, meron ka bang feeling na the Lord is calling you to serve
well, I
Him?
did not get technical voice, microphone saying come.
Okay.
Everything was directed towards that desire, or everything was directed towards making that desire.
Okay.
And that I cannot explain. As I said, if you ask an explanation, I can give you only half. I wanted to become a priest. Why I wanted to become a priest? That's God to answer.
Nung you chose, di ba, the Archbishop Rosales, who becomes the cardinal, no, sa Cebu, sent you to Manila, and then asked you to study abroad. What is your reaction nung pinapadala?
At that time, the Philippine College was just opened. He committed to send 5 students to Rome. And again, I did not know how I was chosen, but he just called me one evening and said, we are sending you to Rome. And my parents said, look, it is difficult for us because him to be at 19 years old to go to Rome. And they said, no, 19 years old, he can go to Rome. I will send Archbishop Salvador to accompany him. So I was accompanied to Rome. Secondly, I said, well, we are 13 children, and to maintain studies in Rome and 12 other children in the university is quite a burden to the family. I said, no, there's diocese that is sending you.
Okay.
And so I am very grateful to Cardinal Rosales because he really had faith in me that you go. And I said, look, I'm just 19 years old, a student.
Very young.
Yeah.